Hi everyone, hope you all doing well. Welcome back to our channel. In this video, I'm going to showcase how you can ingest CEF logs in Microsoft Sentinel. Now, before I go ahead and show you everything in action, let's spend around 2 minutes in terms of understanding the purpose of CEF. So CEF stands for Common Event Format, and this is basically a standardized logging format which was initially developed by Oxide, and it's now a part of Micro Focus as well. Now, Oxide is also a SIEM solution, likewise Microsoft Sentinel. However, CEF was designed by Oxide to make log ingestion much more simpler, or if I talk about the actual application, it was moreover related to data correlation. Now, let me explain you why. So in Oxide, what happens that irrespective of your data source, whether it is Windows machine or Linux machine or router or switch, a firewall or proxy, all the data ingestion will happen in one single schema called CEF formatted schema. However, when it comes to Microsoft Sentinel, it uses dedicated schema architecture, which means for each and every log type, there will be a dedicated table. Now, in CEF format data type, if I talk about Oxide itself, it's one single schema which is available. So it is exceptionally easy for you to write correlation rules and make correlation. However, when it comes to data indexing perspective, or when it comes to the approach of querying data, it is obvious that a dedicated schema architecture is much more reliable and much more quick in terms of showing you results. Okay, I'm not saying that Oxide is not having this feature. There are different ways of saving data in Oxide as well, but this playlist is not for Oxide. It is just an introduction about this log format. Now, since this is something which was developed long back by Oxide itself, and that's the reason why it has been accepted so well in the industry, or let's say by multiple vendors, that majority of the solutions which exist, this could be proxy, this could be firewalls, they generate CEF formatted logs, and they have this capability to get that logs formatted to your SIEM solution. Now, CEF is also something which was actually a kind of derivative of Syslog, or let's say it's based on Syslog. And that's the reason why it is supported by most of the operating system and network devices. When it comes to operating system, it's precisely Linux, where it is supported in whichever extent you want. Okay. Now, when it comes to Microsoft Sentinel, when you will try to ingest a log, which is CEF formatted, it will be ingested in a table called Common Security Log Table. Okay, so let's say if I show you my Sentinel console, this is this workspace or instance that we have set up for Sentinel. And if I click on logs, you can see there is a table termed as Common Security Log. And if you want, you can also go ahead and check the schema of this particular table. So anything that you will be ingesting for Common Security Log will be ingested in this particular table, and these are all different attributes, or let's say columns of this particular table, where the respective values will be saved. Now let's talk about the use case, okay? In which scenario you need CEF data ingestion. Assume that if your proxy is generating CEF formatted data, then in that case, you have to set up a machine on-prem which will receive the data from proxy and then get it forwarded to your Microsoft Sentinel instance. The same concept gets applied to firewall devices, routers, and switches. So the intent here is to explain you that from your solution, be it on-prem or in cloud, you can forward the data to a collector, and the collector will forward the data to Microsoft Sentinel instance. Now, in my SIEM playlist, where I was specifically talking about the methods in which the data ingestion can happen for a SIEM solution, there was a specific section where I was explaining about the ability of agents. Okay, so the first use case was very simple. You want to capture security events, or let's say OS specific events. You'll install an agent over here. The agent will start capturing the data and send that data to your centralized repository of the SIEM solution. The other scenario is where this particular machine, which is machine C, is actually acting as a collector, and it also has an agent. And then it can receive data from other machines or other appliances or network devices and then get that data forwarded to the centralized repository of your SIEM solution. And in this particular video, we are going to discuss this particular scenario. Now, first step will always be to make sure that you set up the collector. Now, in order to set up the collector, you need a machine which is onboarded to Azure as an Azure Arc resource. Since we are talking about data ingestion from on-prem, that's why Azure Arc is the use case that I'm covering here. But let's say you set up a machine in your Azure environment, then this Azure Arc onboarding is not required. But for this particular video, assume that you want to capture data from your on-prem network, routers, switches, firewall devices, or proxy devices, or basically anything that exists in your on-prem environment and that generates CEF formatted data. So first things first, you need a machine which is onboarded to Azure Arc. But now, since this is a machine that you are onboarding, there will be some logging that this machine is generating for itself, which will be a typical syslog data, provided the machine is a Linux machine. However, this machine will also receive data in CEF format from other sources. Okay, so fundamentally what you have to make sure that from this particular machine, you can capture both of these log types. Okay, and once this happens, then this particular machine can be termed as collector. So now let me quickly switch to my machine, which I will be onboarding and showing you how exactly everything works. So this is my Linux machine and it is RHEL 9.2 and the host name is conceptswork-CEF. And if I come back here, you can see there is no access machine named as conceptswork-CEF. Okay, so the first step is again onboard the machine to Azure as an Azure Arc resource. Now there is already a dedicated playlist which I have created for this particular section. However, there is a very specific reason behind showing this process again, because there are multiple steps which you have to follow in a sequence. Okay, so I don't want you to miss anything. That's why I'm just showing you this method again. So the process is exceptionally simple. I'm just generating a script which will help me onboard this machine to Azure with the help of Azure Arc setup. So I'll just copy this entire script from here and I'm going to run this script here so that the onboarding gets started. Okay, as you can see, it's already querying all the data and all the repositories where exactly the setup exists. So as of now, the process which is happening is my machine getting onboarded to Azure as an Azure Arc resource. This AZCMA agent that you see over here is basically the Azure Arc agent. So while this onboarding happens, I'll pause the video for a minute and we'll get started the moment onboarding is completed. Perfect. So as you can see, it is now prompting me to sign in to Microsoft.com device login. This is a URL where I have to go so that I can give this code and then the authorization process happens. Now in my Azure Arc playlist, I have specifically discussed about the onboarding of Azure Arc with the help of Service Principal itself. But this is one of the method which can be used to onboard. Now here exactly what's happening, that I'm signing on Azure portal with a specific account which has the privilege to onboard the machine. That is the only difference here. So I'll paste this code here and I'll click on next. And you will see that I'll get a prompt that select an account which can be used to onboard the machine. And the moment this process is completed, if I'll come back to my terminal, let's wait for a couple of minutes. You can see it is showing creating resource in Azure, which means now my machine is onboarded to Azure as an Azure Arc resource. And once this entire process is completed, we'll go ahead with our second step. So as you can see, now my machine, this is my on-prem machine. It is onboarded to Azure as an Azure Arc resource. I'll come back to my portal. I'll refresh my machine list and let's see if my machine is getting listed over here. As you can see, this is my machine and it is also showing connected. Now, this is the first step that you have to do. If you encounter any issue in the onboarding of the machine itself, I would request you please go ahead and watch the Azure Arc playlist first. Okay. So now let's move on to our next step, and that is the process of collection of syslog data from this particular machine. Okay. Now for that, what you have to do is you have to associate the machine with a DCR, which is used to collect typical syslog data from the OS itself. Okay. So if you guys remember, while in our last video, we have already set up a data collection rule in this particular video, and we have termed that data collection rule as Linux-Sentinel-demo. So we are going to use the same data collection rule to make sure that we can capture data ingestion from this particular machine, which we have just onboarded. Now, let's say if you have not done it. So in this case, I would suggest you to go ahead and watch the Linux data ingestion video as well and get a DCR created which can capture data from Linux syslog. So this was the DCR that we have created in our last video. All I have to do is I have to associate my machine with this particular data collection rule, and then the data ingestion will start happening. Okay. But before I do that, let me just show you something real quick so that while you are doing this in your environment, you can also track everything step by step. See, we have to be very specific in terms of knowing how exactly each and every part of this entire process is working. Because if at all you miss anything, then it might become slightly complex for you to figure out what exactly went wrong or why I cannot see my data in the console. Okay. So as of now, I have navigated to my machine, my Azure Arc machine, and now I'm going to check that whether any syslog data has been ingested by this machine or not. And the obvious answer is no, because the AMA itself does not exist on this particular machine. Then how come the data ingestion will happen? You can see I'm getting this error. Anyways, this is something which can be ignored, but you can see if I change the first letter case, you can see I'm not getting any information available over here. That's one of the methods to go ahead and verify whether any data ingestion is happening or not. Okay. But let's say if I go ahead and search everything for this particular machine, the expected outcome is I should not get anything. Okay. However, once the AMA installation is completed, then I will get two different tables which will start receiving data. The very first one is heartbeat, and the other one is your syslog table itself. Now, as of now, the scope that we have applied is device specific. Okay. We have to be very specific about this as well. However, let's say if I just go ahead and open my log analytics workspace and then try running this option of syslog, or let's say if I try querying the data of syslog, then there could be a possibility that some of my machine might sending some of the data which can get listed over here. Let me just verify this quickly as well. Okay. So here, let's say if I go ahead and do syslog, and if I do run, let's see whether we are getting any results or not. Okay. So, okay, it's not changing automatically. Anyways, yeah, I'll change it again and I'll click on run. So you can see no data. However, let's say if I change this to something starting, let's say last month, then I'm expecting that I should get some results, because when we were onboarding the Linux machine, as I've shown you in my last video, I was getting data. Okay. But still, if I, let's say, show you all the device name from which syslog table has received data, it will obviously not show my computer name which we have just onboarded, or my host name which we have just onboarded. However, I'm still trying to make you all understand how exactly this works and how each and every component is connected. So the machine that on which we are working currently, the host name of this machine is Concepts Work CEF. Okay. Yeah, you can see Concepts Work -CEF. Okay. And if I come back to my results, I'm not getting this entry over here, which basically means that there is no data ingestion which has happened. Okay. So now I'll come back to my DCR. Okay. Just to give you a recap again, I'm at second step, which is associating the machine to a DCR to capture typical Linux syslogs. Okay. And this is my DCR with which I have to associate my machine. So here I'll go ahead and click on resources, and then I'll add my machine. And one more aspect again that I would like to show you folks, and that is moreover related to deployment of extension. So as of now, if I'll click on extension, you don't see any entry coming over here. Okay. But let's associate now the machine. I'll click on add, and then I'll go ahead and select my machine here, which is this one, and then I'll click on apply. Now we have to wait for a couple of minutes while this association happens, and once it is done, then what we will see is the deployment of an extension will get initiated for this particular resource. So I'll pause the video, let's say for 2 minutes, and I'll resume it again the moment I see any extension getting deployed to this particular resource. Now, again, this is a very common process, and I have already covered in a lot more detail in my previous videos. So I'm just using some of the settings as a reference point. Now, you can see that the process of Azure Monitor Agent deployment already started on my machine, which is Concepts Work CEF, which is basically this machine which we have just onboarded. So I'll pause the video and we'll resume once this is completed. Perfect. So it took around 7 minutes to get this entire process completed. And as you can see now, it is showing me Azure Monitor Linux agent is deployed on my machine. Okay. Now let's just go ahead and check the logs which are getting captured by this particular machine, and then we'll also go and check if the same set of information is available in my Linux console, in my Sentinel console as well. Now the obvious reason is that yes, it will show everything, but still I'm just showing you the methods how to make sure that everything is working as expected. Okay, so this is the command that I'm going to run, where I'm going to search everything, and I just want to summarize the count of the logs based on a specific table name, which is basically getting captured from this particular machine and getting ingested into my Sentinel workspace. Okay, so as you can see that this machine is sending logs to Syslog, as well as there is a heartbeat which is coming because Azure Monitor Agent is installed. Okay, now let's do something and query syslog table just to see what kind of data we are getting. Okay, now you can see from the machine which we have just onboarded, syslog data is coming. So fundamentally what we have done is we have associated my machine with a DCR. Okay, and this DCR resulted the installation of AMA on my machine, and then the data ingestion is as of now happening to my workspace, which is associated with Microsoft Sentinel, and the table name is syslog. This is step number 1. As of now, we have just captured syslog data. Now, this is something which I've highlighted in my last video as well, that when it comes to Linux as a platform, you can either choose the option to directly create a DCR, or you can also choose the option of connector, which is syslog via AMA. I would suggest you to use the default option, but it's your choice. Whatever you want, you can follow any of the process. Both will have same results or implications both will trigger installation of AMA agent, and that AMA agent will start capturing the native OS data and will get that ingested to your syslog table. Now let's talk about the third step, or let's say this is the first step of the actual task of this particular video, which is onboarding CEF connector to Microsoft Sentinel, and then making sure that we are creating a DCR for CEF data collection. Okay. So for that, I'll again go back to my portal, and this time I will go to Microsoft Sentinel console, and I'll click on the instance which we have created for this particular playlist, and then I'm going to click on this option of data connectors. Okay, now if this data connector does not exist, or let's say you have not onboarded it, so the process is exceptionally simple. You have to search for common event format via AMA in the content hub. Here you have to search. So I have already onboarded, that's why it is showing me connected. But let's say this is a data connector that you have not onboarded, then just type this in content hub and install the respective connector, and then from this particular connector you can create a DCR. Now for Linux, I was saying that you can choose any of the methods, be it let's say be it your default DCR option, or let's say your direct console access for connector. You can choose any of these options, but when it comes to CEF, you have to use the connector specifically which exists for CEF data ingestion itself. Okay, so give me a minute. I think there is some change in naming convention. Yeah, so this is what you have to search, common event format. And once you onboard this connector, you can see it is showing you two data connectors, right? Once you onboard this connector, so let's say if it is not installed in your Sentinel instance, you will get install option here. Since I have already installed, I'm getting this option of manage. Okay, so now since this connector already exists, I'll go and click on data connector, and then I'll again select my data connector, which is common event format via AMA, and then I'm going to click on this option which is open connector page. Now from this particular console, I'm going to create a DCR that will be applied to my machine, and this DCR will help us capturing CEF data from my machine. Okay, so as you can see, there is one which already exists. This is I have created again for some testing, but I'll show you everything from scratch. So now we are going to actually capture the data which is CEF formatted, which this particular machine will be receiving from some other sources. So for this, I'm just going to click on this option of create data collection rule, and then here I'm going to type my rule name, let's say CEF data ingestion, and this is for, let's say, anything which exists for concepts work. Again, I'm not going to make any change in my subscription and in my resource group. All I'm going to do is click on next. So as of now, what's happening for a single machine which we have just onboarded, which is this particular machine, there are two DCRs which are associated. The purpose of first DCR is to capture syslog data and send it to my syslog table of my Sentinel instance, whereas the purpose of this particular DCR is to capture CEF formatted data from the machine and send it to common security log table. Okay, so I'll select my resource and then I'm going to click on next. Okay, I'm not really sure why I'm getting this warning here. Okay, give me a minute. Let me switch to my native browser on my host machine itself, and then I don't think we will get these warning because I have experienced this multiple times anyways. So we'll follow the same process again. I'll go to my Sentinel instance, and then I'll just quickly click on my data connector option. And here I'm going to search for this common event format via AMA. I'm going to click on open connector page. And then I'm just going to click on this option, which is create data collection rule. And I'm going to name it as, let's say, concepts work CEF data ingestion. I'll click on next, and here I'm going to select my resource again, and I'll click on next. Yeah, you can see everything is working. That's a browser specific issue. I have faced this multiple times on Linux machines. Anyways, so as of now, I am selecting debug for each and every facility. And there is a specific reason behind doing this, because when it comes to knowing where exactly the data ingestion will happen or what type of data ingestion is happening, it's very important for you to make sure that you have enabled everything. Now, this is something that you should do to begin with. However, once you know all the facilities and their log level type, then you should come to this particular console and customize the settings as well. Okay, so here as of now I have selected for everything as debug, and then I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to click on create. So as of now, what's happening, that my DCR for CEF data ingestion is getting created, and again this will trigger a kind of data collection rule creation on my machine itself. Now, for those of you who have already seen the videos or the entire playlist of Azure Monitor, you know where exactly you have to go and find the data collection rule on the machine itself. However, for this particular playlist, I'll quickly show you where exactly you can check whether the DCR is created on the machine or not. So let me switch back to my machine again. And this time I'll go to that particular location where the file exists. Okay, perfect. So let me show you this with the help of terminal itself. Okay, so I'll go to the respective location, which is etc/opt Microsoft Azure Monitor agent, then config cache, config chunks. And as of now, you can see it is showing me a single DCR getting listed over here. Okay, so if I open this DCR here, you can see it is showing me everything related to the configuration which is pushed through DCR. Let me open it with another editor. Yeah. So you can see it is as of now showing me all the details which are related to DCR. And here exactly one more thing which you can also do is going ahead and matching the DCR GUID just to make sure the right set of information is available on the machine. So what you see here right now, it shows DCR-2D91 and then some GUID. Okay. Now this is again something related to Syslog itself. So if I'll show you my DCR with which we have associated our machine for Linux Syslog data collection, and if I show you the DCR GUID, you can see this value. This is something which is matching with the information that we see over here. Okay, so now all we have to do is we have to just wait for, let's say, a couple of minutes more. And here we should see two different entries. One is for Syslog and the other one is for CEF. And once we see those entry, then I'll move on to the next step. In the meanwhile, let me just explain in a kind of a quick recap what all we have done. So this was my machine from which Syslog data collection was happening and the data ingestion was happening to Syslog table itself. Then for the second step, for the same machine, what we have done is we opened this connector, which is CEF via AMA, and we created a data collection tool for CEF data collection. Now, if this machine receives any data which is of CEF format, it will be forwarded to common security log table. Okay, so I'll again come back to my machine, and now you can see I can also see another DCR getting listed over here, right? Now, this is the one which is now just created. So let's go ahead and open this one. Okay, so again, I'll just go ahead and okay, just give me a minute. I'm not sure why this is happening, but anyways, yeah. So now you can see it is showing me a different DCR, and if you again go ahead and try to match the DCR ID, which is this one, DCR-B9916, this should match with the GUID of the DCR which we have created from CEF console. Okay, so here we'll now check the DCR which we have just created. Let me just refresh it so that I can show you the exact DCR. So this is the one which we have just created. Now we'll open this particular DCR and we'll see what is the GUID which is coming. Okay, so I'll just type it here. So this is my DCR which we have just created from the console itself, and now I'll click on JSON view, and now I'll check for DCR ID which is B99 something. Okay, I'll come back to my terminal and let's just see if we are getting this, and you can see it's DCR-B99. Now this fundamentally means that as of now my machine is having both the DCRs which are required to get the data ingested. Okay, now the next step is to go ahead and run the CEF forwarder script. Okay, now what exactly this script is going to do? It is actually going to make a change in the R syslog configuration of the machine itself. Okay, now the question is where exactly this Python script exists. It exists on a specific link altogether, which is again a GitHub resource. So you can see that it shows you here that once you have completed this process of DCR association, then you have to run the following command in order to install and apply CEF collector. Okay, so now let's say if I go ahead and show you this command, this is the command end to end. However, if you pay close attention, it's basically installing a Python script. Okay, so let's just quickly see what exactly this script is all about. So you can see this script actually checks that what kind of R syslog service is available on the machine, or what kind of syslog is available. It is R syslog or next generation. That it goes ahead and perform n number of different activities, and then it sets up a configuration which allows the machine to listen on port 514 for CEF logs which the machine is receiving. This is fundamentally the script end to end. Now if I'll start explaining this script, then the video will go exponentially long, so I'm not doing this for this particular video, but as you move along I will explain this script end to end, what exactly it is doing and what exactly is happening as of now. Okay, so now let's come back to our machine again and run this command here. Okay, so this is the command that we have to run. However, this is again something which I have seen n number of times, that once you run this command, it at times break the R syslog service of your machine. Okay, so if at all it happens here, we'll fix it and I'll show you how to fix that as well. Okay, so as of now you can see that it shows me that it located R syslog service. However, you can see now it is showing me that installation completed successfully, R syslog daemon restarted successfully. Now, even though everything was showing as success, it was showing me that the rsyslog service was restarted. However, there was a message when it comes to the service getting failed. So as soon as you complete the Python script on your collector, okay, don't forward the data, because I am sure that you will encounter some issues. So the very first thing that you have to do is you have to go ahead and check the state of the service itself. Okay, so for that, I'm going to type systemctl status rsyslog. And as you can see that it is showing me the service restart has actually failed. It's not success. Okay. Now, depending upon the Linux version that you have, there is a possibility that it just works seamlessly. But this is something which I have seen, that there are certain iterative errors that come. And since this one is coming as of now, I'll tell you the method how to fix this as well. Okay. So for that, for this particular issue precisely, you have to go to etc, and then you have to go to this particular location, which is systemd, and then system, and then you can see, you can type multi-user, and inside this location you will have this file, which is rsyslog.service. Okay, and you can see this is the file where you have to make a small change, and that too in the service section itself. So here, just go ahead and type start limit burst. Default is around 5. That's why we were getting that error. So since this is a demo environment, I'll keep it as 100. But when you're doing it for your own production environment, I would request you to go ahead and read about the rsyslog service first, and then make this change accordingly. Okay. So now all I have to do is just save these settings in the same file, and I'll again open it. And as you can see, now my file is updated. Now, if I go ahead and restart my service, I'm expecting that it should get restart. However, if there is any other error as well, we'll go ahead and check. Okay, so now you can see it is showing me that there is a change in the configuration itself. So the very first command that we have to run is systemctl daemon reload. Okay, and I'm going to run this command. Let me quickly clear the screen first. Okay, perfect. Now we'll see why we are getting that particular error. So let's just run this command again. Restart rsyslog service. Okay, and now let's just access the general data. Okay, it's showing me the detailed information. Okay, let's just cancel that, and let's just exit it from here, clear the screen again, and then let's just type yes. So okay, SC Linux is basically preventing this access, and then what we have to do is we have to run these two commands. Okay, perfect. So I'll copy these two commands, and then we'll see how it goes. Or wait a minute, there is one more command that we have to run, and which is this one. Perfect. Just give me a minute and let's get started with these changes. Okay, so now I'll copy these two commands first. Here, and the first command as well, which is this one. Spin restore config. Okay, fundamentally I don't want to restore the config, because there is a change which has been implemented, but let's see. I'll run this command first. And then I'll run this command. And let's just see what we get. So basically, these are some issues which you might encounter while making this work, because there are many changes which are happening on a service level itself. That's why these errors are expected, kind of. Okay, so now I'll again try to restart, and let's see now what we get. System ctl status or syslog dot service. Okay, let's do something. Let's just stop the service and start manually. Okay, again it is showing me the same error. So what we'll do is we'll again access this information. Okay, so it's not going through without restore. Okay, no issues. We'll cancel this and run the first command, which is this one. Very good. And again, I'll grant the respective permissions. Again, so yes, these are all different scenarios which you may encounter, and I'm showing them intentionally just to show you how I try to make these things work if they behave weirdly. So now let's just try restarting the service again. Perfect. And now you can see my service is restarted. Okay, so I'll say status. Perfect, everything is working now. Now the last step is to make sure that you can see the data which this machine is receiving. Okay, now this is a very good article by Microsoft which is available, and all you have to do is you have to type CEF via AMA. Whatever I'm showing you in this particular video, apart from the typical R syslog troubleshooting, everything is documented over here, and it shows you that what commands you should run on the terminal of Linux to make sure that you can see if it is receiving any logs from any of your machine. Okay, so from here on this particular new terminal, I'll just paste this command which we have copied, and this time I'll delete it. Okay, now here, if there is any log which is coming on this particular machine, it will be shown. Let me initiate this with root first. Okay, now I'll clear the screen again and I'll paste this command. Now it is listening. Okay, now I'll again open one more terminal, and again this with root. And now in the same article here, you will also see a method to send a test log. Okay, and this will be received by the machine itself, and this is a CEF formatted log. Okay, so as of now, what we have practically done is we have completed this process of running CEF forwarder script on the collector. Then the next step is to verify if the rsyslog service and AMA service is running on the machine. With the AMA service, you won't face any issue. I This is something which I have tested n number of times. That's why I'm showing you that with our syslog you might encounter some issues. That's why I was showing you the process end to end. However, once you have verified both the services are running, then the next step is to make sure that you send sample logs using echo command on Linux machine. Now, what does this actually do? Okay, now you can see the entire process that we were discussing in a lot more detail, that all your network appliances or devices will send CEF formatted data to your machine. Your machine already has the DCR, which was coming from here, and then the data ingestion is happening through common security log table in Microsoft Sentinel itself. And lastly, from a solutioning perspective, all you have to do is you have to make this change in your vendor configuration itself. Let's say you want to capture Cisco firewall logs, then go to the data forwarding setting. And if you're getting CEF format, it's perfect. Let's say at times you also see syslog getting mentioned over there. So all you have to do is you have to give the IP of this particular machine where the routing should happen, and the port should be 514 to begin with. Again, there is a lot of customization that can be done to ports as well. If you're using, let's say, TLS for syslog as well, that's a different topic altogether. But to make it simple, if you're doing syslog forwarding from any of your solutions, just get those logs forwarded on port number 514 to this particular machine, which you have configured with Python script and everything. And then all the data ingestion will start happening, and you will see that data in common security log. Okay, so once you have sent the sample data using echo command on your Linux machine itself, then you have to verify if the logs are getting ingested in the workspace. Okay, now the very first thing that I would like to show you is the common security log table where the data should come. Okay, so let's say here, if I go and type KQL mode, and if I click on run, what we see here is no data getting ingested. Okay, as of now, there is nothing which is coming over here. Now, one more thing which I would like to verify, and that is something related to data collection rule itself. And this is the one which we have just created. I just wanted to make sure that the right workspace is connected. Otherwise, at times it just shows weird behavior. So I'll just click on overview, and then I'll click on JSON view. And I just wanted to verify that whether it is going to the right table of my workspace. Okay. Let me just quickly check this as well. Workspace resource ID. This is exactly what I have to check, and it should go to my workspace, which is con Sentinel. So you can see everything is documented as precisely as possible. Workspace con Sentinel is receiving the data in this particular table, which is common security log, with the help of this particular DCR. Okay. So now I'll come back to my machine, and I'll show you how exactly everything is happening. So with this particular command, you can send a test event on the machine. Okay. So on my machine, I have initiated TCP listening. And let's say if I now run this command, then there is an event which should be logged, which is CEF formatted. Now there is a small change that you have to do in this command, which is available in public documentation. Okay, so I've copied this, and let me show you this from scratch. So if I'll copy it here, and again I'll copy it, and I'll try running in terminal. Since there is some issue with this, there is no space here where it says W and then 0. So that's why it is failing here, precisely speaking. Now it has to be fundamentally greater than 0. Okay, so all you have to do is, if you change this 0 to 1, then you can see this log is sent, and it will be shown here. My machine has also received the logs. Okay, you can see this is exactly what we have sent. So assume that this manual process that we are doing right now manually to just send some logs. It will be done automatically the moment you do syslog configuration. Your machine will start receiving the data. So for this particular demo, what we have done is I have kind of created a dump of log, okay, and which I will send now quickly. And as you can see, here it is showing me that these are the different set of logs which my machine is receiving. Okay, and if we'll wait for a couple of minutes, it will just go ahead and capture the data, and then it will customize it and it will send it to my common security log table. Okay, so usually if you have reached this far, it's not going to take more than 2-3 minutes for you to actually see the data being available on the portal itself, because that's how kind of real-time activity is incorporated with the agent itself. So let's just go back to my console of Sentinel, and yeah, this is my Sentinel console. No, this is the workspace. Okay, so let me go to my Sentinel console now, and then click here, and then let me just go to my workspace as well and see if I'm getting anything in my common security log table. Okay, now to make this real quick, let me switch to my native browser. It's very slow here on this particular machine. I don't know why. Okay, so Microsoft Sentinel, my instance, logs. I'll close this, KQL mode, common security log, and I'll click on run. Let's see if we get the data here. Otherwise, we'll wait for a couple of minutes. No, we can see the data. Perfect. So this is my CEF formatted data. And as you can see, it is getting ingested to my common security log table. Perfect. So this was all about knowing how exactly you can ingest CEF formatted data to Microsoft Sentinel. So a kind of quick summary: get the machine onboarded to Azure as Azure Arc resource, associate the machine to a DCR to collect typical syslog data, then onboard CEF connector, create a DCR for CEF data collection, run CEF forwarder, Python script on the collector, verify if the rsyslog service and AMA is running on the machine, send sample logs to Linux machine so that you can see them on the portal itself, and lastly just verify if everything is getting ingested to common security log table. So this was all about knowing everything related to CEF data ingestion. In my next video, I'm going to talk about custom log ingestion, how you can ingest logs of any format to Microsoft Sentinel. So if you think that this channel is helping you to learn anything new, please feel free to subscribe and share this video with your technical community. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.